You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Monday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Here's what's happening around Montana tonight. Minimum wage bumping up a bit. We'll tell you when and how much tonight on your statewide newscast. Plus, a park visitor suffered severe burns after falling into thermal water at Yellowstone National Park last night. But first, Old Man Winter bids a brief farewell, but not before an early fall blizzard leaves loads of snow and fallen trees in its wake. Well, the aftermath from this weekend's historic storm still being seen and felt throughout the state. Chief forecaster Bob McGuire standing by now with those totals. Bob.
Well, Jeanelle, you had to have some elevation to get the big totals out of this storm, but let me show you some places that did very well when it comes to snowfall out of this weekend. Places like Babb up in Glacier National Park, 52 inches, Browning 48 inches, Badger Pass 46 inches, St. Mary, we all like that, 45 inches, East Glacier 36 inches of snow, and now Doppler radar showing some more snow is starting to move into south central Montana, coming out of the Beartooths, heading towards Big Timber and the Billings area. And so how much more snow are we going to get out of this stuff? Looks like we're going to get probably about another light dusting across much of south central Montana. We'll have more to come your way in a few more minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Bob. Well, the early winter storm knocked down power lines and forced outages all across the state. MTN's John Amey touched bases with Northwestern Energy in Butte to find out how much manpower it took to handle that damage.
This weekend's blast of winter weather resulted in more than 300 reports of power lines going down across western Montana.
We're prepared for this, watching the weather forecasts and making sure that, that if things go bad, that we're ready to respond.
And respond they did, as heavy snow and wind caused down power lines and outages, mainly in the northern part of the state. This required pooling the company's manpower.
The weekend before, we had about 400 hours of man hours that were out there working, and this weekend there was about 1,700. So we did pull in crews from, other areas to make sure that they're able to, keep things safe, make sure that we get people back in power.
Northwestern Energy encourages any help from the public.
If you do see any power lines that are down, that you please report those to us immediately and stay away from them.
And with these cooler temperatures coming in, people are going to be firing up the boilers and also their heaters. So Northwestern wants their customers to be wary of any natural gas leaks and to contact them as soon as possible.
We want to make sure that, when you're turning your boiler back on, number one, if you smell gas, that you make sure that you take the precautions to get out of the house, and that you make sure that you call, so that you report that so we can take care of that in a safe manner.
In Butte, John Amey, MTN News.
Thanks, John. Residents near Finley Point on Flathead Lake also cleaning up after damaging winds tore through the area. In one section, nearly 20 huge pine trees came crashing down. Northwestern Energy reminding customers to assume all power lines on the ground or those hanging are live. Do not approach them and report them immediately to Northwestern's emergency line. Well, the storm also wreaking havoc from Browning to Cutbank to Fairfield. This video we captured near Browning at the height of the storm Sunday. Record-setting snow prompted school closures, and several U.S. highways remain closed along the Rocky Mountain front tonight. Well, now over to Great Falls, where residents are also dealing with the storm aftermath. MTN's Elizabeth Transu shows us what the city is doing to help.
This September storm brought heavy snow, gusty winds, and hazardous road conditions.
It caught us off guard. We had to find our shovels and stuff like that.
Monday morning, residents woke up to this.
All we had was a skill saw, so we were doing that.
Trees and power lines on the ground.
Their tree across the street just was snapping and cracking, and it fell all through the street.
The city of Great Falls is working to clean up the mess. The forestry department's Todd Szymanski says at this time the city will only focus on the Boulevard district. He says right now they do not have the resources to address anything outside of that district, and according to the city's ordinance, the care and maintenance is up to the property owner. So for residents like Teresa,
now we have broken branches and frozen branches, and I don't know.
They're left with the responsibility.
I'm thankful. It was a miracle that no one got hurt. When people have needed help, people have come to to help other people, and we're blessed.
Reporting in Great Falls,
We're warm. I'm just hoping everybody else is warm.
Elizabeth Transu, MTN News.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Now, we do have some good news. It appears autumn didn't just last 5 days this year. Odds are very high that we still have a number of nice fall days ahead of us. In fact, the National Weather Service reports temperatures will recover over the next few days, and there's a good possibility that we will see average fall temperatures as October moves along.
An early start to winter doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have a bad winter. Right now, it looks like we're going to be right about average. No La Nina, no El Nino.
In other news tonight, 4 people are dead after a crash just south of Belt this morning. It happened near Armington Junction around 8:45. At least 2 vehicles were involved in the crash that shut down the entire roadway. Montana Highway Patrol Trooper Wade Palin says in addition to the 4 fatalities, 2 other people suffered critical injuries. The names of the victims have not yet been released, and the cause of the crash is under investigation. A 48-year-old man is recovering from severe burns after falling into thermal water near the cone of Old Faithful Geyser. It happened last night around midnight. Cade Seamers told park rangers he was walking along the boardwalk without a flashlight, tripped and fell into a hot spring. He was flown to a hospital in Idaho Falls. Park officials say they found evidence of alcohol use. They also found Seamers' shoe, his hat, and footprints going to and from the geyser. An investigation is underway. Well, opening statements today for a second suspect linked to a double murder in the Helena Valley. As MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports, this trial will likely not focus on the deaths, but on whether Kyle Ham bears any legal responsibility.
On Monday morning, Kyle Ham appeared in Lewis and Clark County District Court for the first day of arguments in his trial for deliberate homicide. Ham is the second of 3 suspects facing homicide charges in connection with the deaths of David and Charla Taylor. The victims' bodies were found in their home on Cayuse Road in March 2018. Prosecutors say Ham went to the home that night along with the Taylor's son Caleb and another man, Journey Winky. Ham told investigators he waited outside while the other 2 went inside. Caleb Taylor later admitted he killed his parents during that time. He is currently serving 2 life sentences in prison after pleading guilty to deliberate homicide. Prosecutors say Taylor and Winky also took jewelry from the house. They say Ham should be convicted of homicide because he knew the other 2 men planned to rob the house, and the Taylor's death occurred in the course of that crime.
He was trying to conceal the fact that he sat in that car feet away from that house where those 2 people, Charla and David Taylor, were brutally murdered.
Ham is also charged with tampering with evidence. Investigators say security video from a nearby car wash shows the 3 men cleaning out Taylor's truck after the murder. They argue Ham kicked a knife into a drain to dispose of it. Ham's defense attorneys said they don't dispute most of the facts of the case, including the details of the Taylor's deaths. But they argue Ham never knew anything about a plan to rob the house, and that Caleb Taylor and Winky didn't tell him what had happened inside.
There was no discussion, and there had been no discussion about harming the Taylors and taking anything from them. There was no plan, there was no discussion, there was no agreement.
Defense attorneys also deny that Ham deliberately tampered with any evidence. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Now, that trial is expected to last about a week, and Caleb Taylor is expected to testify by video from Montana State Prison. A Washington, D.C. watchdog organization has called on the IRS to investigate a Bozeman-based nonprofit, claiming that nonprofit failed to report its lobby activity. Citizens for Balanced Use is an advocacy group that promotes active forest management and responsible resource development in Montana. The Campaign for Accountability says Citizens for Balanced Use willfully violated the rules for maintaining a nonprofit tax-exempt status by running an extensive lobbying campaign and failing to disclose its activities.
Well, according to the complaint, they claim that all of our members and board members and people are up, advocating for certain issues between our congressionals, state elected officials, agencies. And I just remind the people that none of our board members and members are being paid.
Research about the nonprofit's lobbying practices comes from the Western Values Project. That's a Montana-based conservation group. Well, St. Peter's Health in Helena is now joining with Bozeman Health to develop a neonatal intensive care unit at Deaconess Hospital in Bozeman. Now, the two hospitals announced today they will establish a center for neonatal care and maternal fetal medicine services. Families in Helena will be able to utilize a telehealth network to consult with a physician at Bozeman Deaconess. They'll also have access to NICU care at Bozeman Health and coordinated post-discharge pediatric care in Helena.
That's a big driver for this as our demographics continue to grow between Bozeman and Helena. There's a lot of patients that we have to serve, and having a high-level NICU will serve our patients very well in this.
Bozeman Deaconess Hospital plans to open the neonatal intensive care unit next fall. Well, about 10,000 Montana workers will soon see a bump in their paychecks. On January 1st, the minimum wage is set to go up 15 cents to $8.65 per hour. 2018 data shows the businesses with the largest number of minimum wage workers include the accommodations and food services industry and the retail trade industry. Well, 29 states and Washington, D.C. have minimum wages above the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Still to come on your statewide MTN News, Senator Steve Daines causing a stir with local environmental groups after not bringing home more funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. But first, we're going to check back in with Bob McGuire, who's going to join us with your full statewide forecast.